Welcome, everybody, to Week 9 NFL Prediction Show on the Grueling Truth Sports Network. The Grueling Truth, as always, is powered by Betting.net. Betting.net is your best bet for finding the online sportsbook or casino that's right for you. Make sure you check them out at Betting.net. I'm your host for the NFL show, Mike Goodpaster. Right now, I'd like to welcome in my co-host. First up, remember the Indiana Basketball Hall of Fame 1981 national champion for the Indiana Hoosiers, Steve Risley. How you doing, Steve?
Doing good today, guys. Beautiful day out here in sunny LA.
All right, and next up, we got our NFL beat writer, Dan Kornhauser. How you doing, Dan?
I'm doing great because I'm sitting on top where I belong. It's a little lonely up here as number one, though.
Last week, Dan was 10-5. Me and Steve were 8-7. Do you know how much that puts you ahead now, Dan?
No, but I have 65. I know that much. I got 65 right.
All right, and
I'll
now
let you
I
know
want
if
to
you're wrong.
introduce our special guest. He's fresh off winning a Super Bowl this last Sunday. Joe Spellman. How you doing, Joe?
I'm doing great, Mike. And you're right. Some people have called me the Bill Belichick of Southeastern Indiana youth football. I don't like to believe all that jazz. I'm just one man out there doing what I can.
All right. I believe I called him that. It was sarcasm as a joke. All right. Because, he coaches basically against teams from Kentucky. So it's not really Southeastern Indiana because we all know East Central would smack your ass. All right.
Yeah.
We're going to start off with game one. Another Thursday night classic is the Philadelphia Eagles, who are undefeated, take on the Houston Texans, who are not undefeated. The Philadelphia Eagles are favored by 13. We'll let our guest, Joe Spellman, pick first.
That's right.
What do you think, Joe?
Well, I looked at this game, Mike, and really what I see is I think the Eagles, I think their average margin of victory this season is about 11 points. While the Texans' average margin of loss is right around 10 points. So I think the minus 13 is a little much. I think the Eagles probably win this game, but 13 is an awful lot. And I think the line's actually moved to 14 right now. So, I think the Eagles win this game, but not by 14.
All right, Dan, the interesting thing here when I look at the Philadelphia Eagles, they have just 2 turnovers this season. What do you think here? Can they cover the spread? Because I think we would all agree the Eagles are going to win the game, but almost 2 touchdowns. And in some places, as Joe said, 2 touchdown favorites right now. That's hard to cover in an NFL game.
And I think they're going to cover it. I think they're going to win by 2 touchdowns. They're just that good. Let's just be completely honest. At this point, I don't think anyone can doubt that Philly is for real. And on the flip side, Houston is very, very bad. And I don't know if Philadelphia can keep the streak going of not turning the ball over. But I think they overpower Houston. They had 6 sacks on defense last week. Their offense was unstoppable. And I don't see that ending this week. They should just keep rolling.
All right, Steve, Jalen Hurts has been on fire. He, especially with A.J. Brown, which is a huge signing in the offseason or trade for the Eagles. Do the Titans have a chance here to keep it, or Texas have a chance to keep it within 14 points?
I agree with Danny. I think that Philadelphia is going to cover the spread. They're playing great football right now, and this is not a game. Well, like we all said, we all believe they're going to win. But truthfully, I think they can cover this, the spread over the Texans. Texans are bad at best. So, of course, that means the Colts will lose to them, but they lose to everybody. So that doesn't matter.
We'll talk about the Colts in a little bit. I'm going to do something that I probably shouldn't do. But, come on. We're talking about a guy that just won a Super Bowl. I'm going to agree with Joe. I'm going to take the Texans into 13, 14 points. I think that a Thursday night game, I'd rather go with the home team. But then again, what did the Eagles do this weekend, Dan?
What did the Eagles do?
They put the smackdown on somebody again, didn't they?
Yeah, they did. A.J. Brown scored 3 touchdowns. Like I said, the defense was on fire, had 6 sacks, and they just dominated in every aspect of the game.
And that's why I'm going to take the Texans. Because, I think they're coming off a great performance. Now you get a short week. Houston, for the most part, has stayed in games. And I think this is one of those games that could be a backdoor cover. You get a cheap touchdown at the end and cover the points. I just don't like to give this many points in any NFL game. I'm going to go with the Texans also. Next up, that brings us to the first place Atlanta, or let's see, what do we got here? Yeah, the first place Atlanta Falcons against the Los Angeles Chargers. The Chargers are favored by 3 in Atlanta, Dan.
I'm going to take the Chargers. I mean, I think my love for the Chargers is well noted on this show, as is my love for Herbert. And yes, the Chargers have been the walking wounded thus far to start the season, but it looks like they might be getting some of these guys back. I'm looking through the injury report, and I haven't seen anything new or anything pop up on their team, and it looks like at the very least, even if Mike Williams is out, which is, I think, for sure, I think at this point, Keenan Allen might be coming back, which would be a huge boost. He's questionable with a hammy. Josh Palmer is in concussion protocol, but he may very well play as well. So, yeah, losing Williams does hurt, but if you're getting Allen and Palmer back, that'll be a nice boost for him. I'm going to go with the Chargers. And I don't trust Atlanta, mostly because of Mariota.
I don't know why you would trust the Chargers. But, Steve, what do you think? Do you trust the Chargers here?
Good point.
Yeah, I trust the Chargers. Chargers are going in right now, this game, with the fourth best passing offense in the NFL right now. And the Falcons have the absolute worst passing defense. They're giving up over 306 yards a game, every game. And the Chargers have the fourth best offense. So 3 points, I think, is very coverable. And I'm in that love fest with Herbert too. I still think he's one of the better quarterbacks in the NFL. I think when that team gets healthy and they get everybody in place, I think that whole team will accelerate. So yeah, I'm going to take the Chargers in this one easily.
I do want to add one quick note. Is my big concern with the Chargers is their run defense. They can't stop the run, and Atlanta refuses to throw. So that's a bad matchup.
All right, Joe, what do you think?
Yeah, so I think the Falcons have been playing relatively, at least the last couple of weeks, despite the game against the Bengals. I think that their offense is picking up a little bit. I think Herbert, even though he's not showing it, and I don't know if many people believe it, but he hurt his rib earlier in the season. I think he's still milking that, and I don't really, those things don't go away in the middle of a football season. And I think the Chargers are going to struggle to stay 500 throughout the season. So I'm going to go. I think this is going to be a close game, but I think actually the Falcons probably win this game outright.
All right. Once again, I'm going to agree with Joe. I think, Dan, you overlook a huge factor here with the Falcons. That's the fact that this is a team that nobody thought would win 4 games this year. They're 4-4. They run the ball very well. Mm-hmm. They give up a lot of passing yardage, but they could shorten this game with that running game. And the Chargers' run defense has been porous, to say the least, so far this year. And I think Arthur Smith has done an outstanding job. On the other side, I think the Chargers should have fired the joke they've got as a coach a year ago. I mean, the movie made in Cleveland should have got him fired this year. I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to go with the Falcons here. I mean, Mariota has not played terrible. He's not throwing the ball a lot. He's not there to throw the ball a lot. They're a running team. And when you've got a running team at home that's played well at home, I think the other stat I remember seeing was I think 6 of the games for the Falcons have been decided by less than 7 points. So they are used to being in close games. But they're at home. And if they win this game, guys, I think they become the clear favorite to win the NFC South, as strange as that seems.
With an 8-9 record.
Hey, you know what, Joe? It don't matter how you get in. You just got to get in.
That's right.
I mean, we've seen teams before that were 9-7 or 10-7 last year go to the Super Bowl. You got to get in the show to have a chance to win the show. Yeah. All right, next up, we'll
Mike, just one thing to validate what you were saying. The Chargers have given up 137 yards a game rushing, which is 6th worst in the NFL. So they are very porous on the run game. I'll give you that. So,
All right. So next up, we've got the Minnesota Vikings against the Washington Commanders. I almost said Commandos again. The Washington Commanders. Minnesota is a 3-point favorite, Steve.
Well, after the whooping they put on the Colts, I think the Commanders are going to go to the Super Bowl.
It was 17-16, Steve.
I think the Vikings are playing very good football right now. They're playing as a team very well. They don't have any one player really standing out individually, but they're just cohesive as a team and playing well on both sides of the ball. And I think the Commanders, after watching them play the Colts, if they can only beat the Colts by 1 point, and that gives you a lot of information right there. So I'll take the Vikings in this game.
Well, remember, you could say that, but the Colts did beat the Chiefs. When I look at this game, I mean, Taylor Heineke has actually played pretty well the last couple games. They've got 2 road victories in the last 3 weeks against NFC North opponents. But I think this. Everybody talks about the Eagles. I think by the time this year is over, the Vikings could be the best team in the NFC. Dalvin Cook's just starting to heat up. Justin Jefferson may be the best wide receiver in football. And no matter what you say about Kirk Cousins, he's made big plays in big situations this year to come from behind to win games, to drive and win games. I like the Minnesota Vikings here, Joe.
Yeah, I actually think the only favoring Minnesota by 3 is kind of insulting to
It's
Minnesota.
actually just went up to 3.5, but we'll leave it.
3.5. I mean, I think that's still insulting. I mean, I really think this line should be about 7.5, 7. So I'm going to go with Minnesota all day on this game.
All right, Dan.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Minnesota for all the reasons you guys said. And one extra note is the Vikings got better today at the NFL trading deadline. They acquired tight end T.J. Hawkinson from the Detroit Lions. Basically, the parameters are the Lions get a second-round pick this year and a third-round pick next year. The Vikings get T.J. Hawkinson, a 2023 fourth-rounder, and a conditional fourth-round pick next year. So I don't know what the Lions were thinking in that one, to be completely honest. Hawkinson was one of their very young players, but they get an extra second and a third. They are rebuilding. Team is butt. And for the Vikings, I mean, they get a top 10 tight end when he's healthy, and he just adds another weapon for Kirk Cousins, which, I mean, his offense is already quite right. Just adds another dimension.
Okay. So you're picking Minnesota also?
Yes.
All right, next up, we'll let Joe Spillman start off. The Carolina Panthers at the Cincinnati Bengals. The line this morning was -8. It's now up to 9. We'll play it at 8. What do you think, Joe? Will the Bengals get right against the Panthers?
I think the Panthers are going to play a too high safety zone defense, and Cincinnati's going to run screen passes all night and not throw to the middle of the field in an open zone underneath the zone. And I think Cincinnati probably gets beaten this game. But I don't know. Yeah, I think they beat the Panthers, but the way
they cover 8 points.
Yeah, I don't think so. I don't think that. I don't think the Bengals cover any spread as long as Zach Taylor's calling plays for them. We could talk about this all day, but my God, what we saw last night was absolutely atrocious. That offense. I mean, it's time to panic if you're a Bengals fan, and I don't know what they do to fix this other than to take the reins away from Zach Taylor and let somebody else.
But we know that's not going to happen.
Yeah,
and so that's not going to happen.
No, I think the Bengals win the game. I hope they win the game, but I don't think they cover 8.
All right, Steve.
This is a tough one. I still have a lot of faith in Joe Burrow. I still think he is still one of the top 3 or 4 quarterbacks in the NFL. And I agree with Joe. I don't think there's any doubt the Bengals are going to win this game. But the 8-point spread scares the crap out of me. But you know what? In honor of you, Mike, I'm going to go with the Bengals in this. I think they rebound, and I think Burrow is blasted and has a hell of a game, and it covers the spread. So I'm taking the Bengals in this one.
All right, I'm going to take the Bengals too, just because I don't think the Panthers are very good.
Yeah.
I mean, the thing I would hope is when you take Jamar Chase out of the offense, it shouldn't really cause this much of an issue. 95% of teams in the NFL would love to have Tyler Boyd, T. Higgins, Hayden Hurst, Joe Mixon, Joe Burrow. The problem is this: they have no tackles. Jonah Williams is absolute ass. He always has been. He never should have been drafted. The thing that sucks is you've got to do your background to know what players may have issues with, Just look back at the movie The Program, Joe. You ever see the movie The Program, Dan?
Never heard of it.
You never seen it? You're so gay. But it had James Caan. He was a college football coach. They had this white dude who wasn't any good. He starts, injecting steroids, becomes a monster. But then he gets caught. He has to go off the steroids, and he's no longer a monster. I'm just going to leave it at that, Dan. What do you think? Who wins the game? Or who do the Bengals cover?
Wait, so are we doing the -8? Are we playing that?
Yeah, we'll play the -8, I guess.
All right. I'm going to go with Carolina. And it's not because they're better at all than the Bengals, and I think the Bengals do end up winning, but Bengals are a mess. This past week was really, really ugly. I know Joe Burrow has trouble winning against Cleveland, which is weird to say out loud considering
Joe Burrow doesn't have trouble winning against Cleveland. He has trouble winning against anybody because Zach Taylor's an idiot.
He is an idiot.
Yes, the Zach Taylor thing is an issue. Losing Chase and then coincidentally the offense completely falling apart is not promising. Evan McPherson.
The thing that drove me nuts is last night, no deep balls. They don't play vertical at all. In the fourth quarter, they throw a 50-50 ball to T. Higgins, and it's a touchdown. Because T. Higgins, I know everybody, Jamar Chase is awesome. What he does it better than anybody. To me, T. Higgins is a better receiver. Throw him the ball. He's bigger. He's a bigger target. He's got better hands. He runs better routes. Throw him the ball. Tyler Boyd is a stud. Just throw him the ball. I mean, I don't know why you don't want to go vertically when you've got Joe Burrow and you've got those kind of weapons. But the other thing is this: why you roll into a season with Mike Thomas is like your main backup? Because Mike Thomas, as Dan would say, is ass.
Butt cheeks.
So he's butt cheeks.
Well,
he's ass. It's sphincters.
And really, I mean, we could talk all day long about the play calling and what Joe Burrow's been able to do in the line. But until the Bengals can start establishing a running game with Joe Mixon, and I don't care what anybody says, I think Joe Mixon's playing hurt. I saw him walk off the field a couple of times gingerly last night. He's not hitting holes. He's running timid. Samaje Perine has clearly been the better runner this year. I don't know why he's not the every down back. I don't know.
I have a question here because I think Chris Evans would be the better every down.
Yeah, you're absolutely right.
The fact that Chris Evans is, when Mike Thomas is your next best option at wide receiver, why would you not put Chris Evans and just put him in the slot and let him run routes and catch the ball?
They don't want to play that, man. I don't know why. I don't get it.
No, it's the same thing they did to Rex Burkhead. Rex Burkhead, if we notice, got cut by the Bengals, and 5 years later, he's still in the NFL, and he's still being productive. And Bill Belichick knew how to use him. Marvin Lewis didn't. Of course, pretty obvious. All right.
Yeah.
Did everybody pick this game yet?
Yeah.
I thought so. All right. I love talking Bengals football. Next up, guys, we are going to go. Where are we going here? What's Joe got?
Where are we going?
The Chargers, Falcons. We're going to do Green Bay Packers at the Detroit Lions. And to tell you how bad Green Bay's been this year, Green Bay's only favored by 3.5 points. Dan.
Oh my God.
3.5. That's just enough for me to pick them. Let's be honest, guys. Pick Green Bay. That's just 3.5 is just enough for me to pick Green Bay because let's be honest, Detroit isn't good at all. What we saw earlier in the season was purely a mirage in every possible way. The offense, the timely plays, the not making mistakes, all of it was a mirage. Losing close games to good teams is cool when you're rebuilding, which is what the Lions are doing. But this is now 3 weeks in a row where the Lions do not score a point in the second half. They're literally 0 in the last 3 games combined. You can't do it. You got to close games. It's ugly.
Actually, they should be able to do it because they still scored 28 points. That's how bad the defense is.
And their defense is historically bad. Green Bay.
I mean, I think the offense. I think Jared Goff's played well when Swift is healthy and Amon St. whatever the hell his name is healthy. They can score points.
St. Brown.
But it doesn't matter how many points you score if you give up one more than what you score, and we've seen that with them this year. I mean, their offense is probably still top 10 in the NFL. And scoring points, they might be top 5, and they still have only won one game?
They have one win right now. The Lions are currently slated to pick first overall. It's disgusting. And
that's not disgusting because that gets you Bryce Young.
Well, yeah, that's the only consolation prize. But the big story for Green Bay at the trade deadline was their lack of movement. The Vikings got better. The Dolphins got better. The Ravens got better. The Packers just looked at their wide receiver core and said, F it, we're good.
They've said that for the last 5 to 10 years now.
Yo, I look back and I checked all their first-round picks that they made since they drafted Aaron Rodgers in the first round. All of the picks in the first round, except for 3, have been spent on the defense. They've just drafted 3 safeties in that time frame, a few linebackers, a couple of nose tackle and another defensive tackle, and they've drafted 2 offensive tackles and a quarterback on offense. It's ugly out there. So ugly.
All right. What do you think, Steve?
Yeah, I still have faith in Packers. The Lions, like Dan said, it's not the same team I saw in what was it, the show they do on HBO? I can't even.
We never saw the team.
Hard Knocks.
Hard Knocks. It's not the same team I saw in Hard Knocks. But then they're just playing themselves, so you don't really have a measure of how good they are. But I think 3.5 is a piece of meat I'll bite onto with the Packers. I'll take the Packers and give up the 3.5.
All right, Joey.
I actually think that this is probably going to be kind of a redemption week for the Packers and Aaron Rodgers. I think he has the potential to go off this week. Detroit has, like you guys all said.
How about this? He doesn't have the potential of going off. He will go off. The problem is, can the Packers stop the Lions from going off?
I mean, I think the Packers win by more than 3 or 3.5, whatever the line is right now. And, I think they win this game big. I'm a little disappointed, though, because I listened to the NFL draft show all offseason, and Dan had me believing that the Packers were going to be great this year. I'm a little disappointed, Dan.
I tried to tell Dan. And actually, Dan, if you remember, I believe I leaned towards the Vikings for the division.
You did. And I'm disappointed because the Packers had everything you needed to be useful. I still had faith in Aaron Rodgers. I thought their defense would be useful. I thought when healthy, their offensive line was at least average. And I thought they had a decent coach, considering the guys won 13 games each of the last 3 years or whatever it is. So
he's a horrible coach. If you watched him in that playoff game against, what was it, the Tom Brady and the Bucks? Remember when he kicked the field goal? He's like all the young analytic guys. The guy in Miami sucks. The guy in Cincinnati sucks. I mean, they all suck.
Yeah. But, they're disappointing. But they still have time. That division is awful.
They don't have time because right now the Vikings have only lost 1 game, haven't they?
Yes.
We're only halfway through. I mean, how many times have we seen teams have fast starts like the Cardinals and then just fizzle out in the second half?
This is a slow start. And by slow start, it's a horrible start for the Packers. I'm going to take the Lions in this game. I saw that if you look at the Packers, I mean, come on, they had a 2-point win over Tampa. At the time, it seemed like maybe that's pretty good. We found out it didn't. The Vikings totally manhandled them the season opener. Since then, they got lucky to beat the Patriots. And if Bailey Zappi would have played the whole game, they wouldn't have. And they lost to the Giants at home. They got bludgeoned by the Jets. They went and lost to Tyler Heineke and the Washington Commanders. They actually played relatively well against Buffalo, and I think the Packers could win the game. If this was a 2.5-point spread, I would take the Packers. We haven't seen the Lions get blown out at home too much, Dan. I think they'll be able to score points because the Packers' run defense has been bad, and the Lions have a couple good running backs.
One of the
worst.
worst.
Go with the Lions.
All right.
Is that everybody, or did we?
Oh no, Joe.
Joe?
No, Yeah, no, I
That's
said
okay.
Green Bay. Yeah, Green Bay.
Pay attention,
All right.
please, Dan. All right, next up, we got the Miami Dolphins at the Chicago Bears. And it says here, missing in action is minus 4.5 points. It says MIA. All right, so we got Miami at Chicago, Steve. What do you think?
Well, I don't know. This is a tough pick. The Bears have shown good play. I mean, they've shown in the games up in Chicago. Dolphins. God, it's a tough game to pick. 4.5.
Well, Steve, not to make your picking a little more difficult, but the Dolphins did make one of the bigger trades in the trade deadline by acquiring edge rusher Bradley Chubb from the Denver Broncos. He's a free agent at the end of the season, but the Dolphins get Bradley Chubb from the Broncos as well as a 5th-round pick in 2025. They trade Chase Edmonds, their running back, 2023 first-round pick, which I believe is San Francisco's. I'll have to double-check. But a 2023 first-round pick and a 2024 4th-round pick.
But will Chubb play this week?
I don't know if he's going to play this week. I don't see why not. You're an edge rusher. It shouldn't be that hard. Just put him on the edge and let him do his thing. But I don't know about that. I haven't seen anything about that, to be honest. But they did make a huge move. It's worth noting.
All right.
And Chicago did too, actually, when they traded for Chase Claypool from the Steelers for a 2nd-round pick. So everybody's making moves. It's great.
Yeah. Including the dumbass Colts. But we'll get to them. I'm going to take the Dolphins in this game. Chicago's shown some good play, but they're not consistent. And weather's going to be fine up there. It's not going to be an issue in Chicago this time of the year. So I'll take the Dolphins and give up 4.5.
All right, I'm going to take the Dolphins also. And if Bradley Chubb pans out, Miami could all of a sudden be a contender because until Bradley Chubb, I don't think they were. I don't like their coach. He's one of the analytic guys, and he looks soft as hell, like all analytic guys do. Joe?
Yeah, I'm going to take Miami as well, not because I have a lot of faith in Miami or anything that they're doing down there, but, I just think the Bears are absolutely horrible. They have 3 wins, but, that the first win of the season playing in a monsoon, everybody knows all rain does is make a bad team better. So, I just think I think the Bears are horrible. I think they're probably competing at the end of the season for one of the worst teams in football.
All right, Dan?
Yeah, I'm gonna go with Miami as well. And I absolutely love the addition of Chubb. He's exactly what they were missing. I think, Mike, you mentioned it last week when we were talking about the Dolphins.
I think I mentioned it when they played the Bengals. That's why I didn't pick them against the Bengals, because they had one of the defensive lines that actually makes the Bengals offensive line look decent.
Yeah, so you have mentioned that they've needed an edge rusher a couple times this season, and they got a hell of a pass rusher, and he is one of the better young edge rushers so far this season. And on the flip side, don't look now, but Justin Fields is playing better. He's gotten better each of the last 3 weeks, and he's given me some hope that he's not completely useless.
Takes too many sacks. He holds on to the ball too long. And the issue with Justin Fields was being stuck where he was as a rookie. All right, real quick, before we get to more of Dan, who is probably the greatest picker in the history of pick'em shows, find the best place to bet for you. Betting.net. I can't even talk right. Betting.net offers expert and user reviews for every online sportsbook and casino in your state. And with that being said, we have Joe and Steve here tomorrow night at 10 o'clock Eastern. And Joe, make sure it's up at that time. We'll have the NASCAR show when they can talk about maybe the craziest finish in NASCAR history. But there needs to be a fight every week because that makes it more interesting. And now we're going to bring up the Buffalo Bills at the New York Jets. The Buffalo Bills are 13-point favorites. And I would assume that 13 points is because Zach Wilson is the quarterback for the Jets. So, right now, I don't know why Joe Flacco is not playing because I have a lot more faith in Joe Flacco, which I don't have any faith in Joe Flacco, but it's better than Zach Wilson. What do you think, Steve?
Bills are playing probably some of the best football in the NFL right now. And I don't think 13 points is something they can't handle against a team like the Jets. So I'm going with the Bills on this one.
All right, Dan.
You see, this for me is a little bit of a toss-up, but at the end of the day, I'm just going to go with the team that's better, and I'm going to go with Buffalo. The line is a little ugly. I don't like the 13. I've seen 12 and a half in some places, and I've seen 12, and I think I saw 14 at one point, but I don't know. If Zach Wilson weren't completely useless and he were a little better, maybe I go the Jets, but I can't do that. I'm going to go Buffalo, and Buffalo's another one of the teams who made a move at the deadline. They traded with Steve's Colts. They got Naheem Hines, running back, pass catching specialist, which should plug in absolutely perfectly in this offense. They traded Zach Moss to the Colts as well as a conditional 6th-round pick this year. And for the Colts, meh, whatever. But for the Bills, I think this is a huge get. Hines is one of the best receiving backs in the league.
Unbelievable trade.
Great fit.
Moss is what, a receiver?
Running back.
A running back? Okay. Naheem Hines, you talk about having a player that can – well, we'll get to the Colts. We're talking Bills right now. But great get for Buffalo on this one because Naheem Hines is a back that can carry Thomas's cues when he's hurt or when he needs a breather or things like that. You don't give up that much, and he's probably a little better pass receiver. So Buffalo got an absolutely great get on this one. I don't know what the Dolphins are.
So does that mean you are both picking the Bills and giving the 13?
Yep.
Yeah, I said I am. I'm taking the Bills.
I am too, just because I think if the Jets even had an average quarterback, I would take the 13 points in a heartbeat because I think the Jets are a good football team. You know, Breece Hall, Sauce Gardner, they're young, they're talented, they're playing at home, but they're going to score like 10 points at best. So I'm going to go with the Bills, Joe.
No, I agree. I'm going to differ from you three a little bit. I agree that the Jets are struggling on offense, and they will continue to struggle because they're just not that good. But the Jets secondary, I think, is one of the better secondaries in the NFL right now. Sauce Gardner is absolutely tearing it up, and I think 13 is a little much. So, obviously, I think the Bills win this game, but I think they're pressing their luck by 13. I'm thinking that a better line for this game, in my opinion, would be 10.5. So I'm going to go. I'm going to take the Jets and the points.
I think a better line would be 20.5. Seriously. Yeah. Seriously, you could have the greatest defense in the world, but when your quarterback constantly turns the ball over, goes 3 and out, your defense breaks. It did it against New England. I mean, and that was Mac Jones. It wasn't even New England's starting quarterback.
That's true. That's true.
And if people want to talk about how big of a loss Breece Hall was, Elijah Vera Tucker, their offensive guard who started all over the offensive line for them, was a huge loss as well. I don't want that to be overlooked because he's just as important, and that O-line has not been the same.
All right, next up, Steve's Indianapolis Colts travel to New England to play the Patriots. The Patriots are favored by 6, Steve.
Well, this is a no-brainer. I'm writing it down here. Hang on. The New England's favored by 6?
Yep.
Yeah.
At home.
At home, yeah. It's a no-brainer. I mean, the problem with the Colts right now is, trading Hines was a bonehead move, in my opinion. Colts are just a disaster right now, and it's all stemming from their coaching. I cannot believe Frank Reich is still coaching this football team. I would have thought they would have exploded by now and done something stupid by firing their coach in the middle of the season, not having anybody out there, a better coach, to take his place. Instead, he trades away our second best running back. I don't know what he's thinking. I don't know. The quarterback crap going on in Indianapolis is ridiculous. I think the receiving core is better than people give them credit for. They catch footballs. Paris had a great game last week. Number 14, what's the kid from Cincinnati? Mike, I keep forgetting his name.
Alec Pierce.
He's starting to catch balls. and he's starting to fit in and show himself. And then you've got number 11. Well, I'm thinking of the names. Pittman, who's I say this every week. He's
Sounds
in
like
that
I'm a
mold.
Colts fan right now, Steve.
I was gonna
I
say.
know.
Damn it, Steve.
I got NASCAR.
That's just
on my
because every
brain.
week Steve asks who the receivers are. So
Yeah. Well, I know their numbers 11, 14, and 1. I know their damn numbers, but I don't. It looks like I know the 9 car. I know
well,
the 14
at the nursing
car.
home, if you just know the numbers, that's good enough. You get
I
to
know
stay
the
up till
22
10.
car. So I go by numbers. I'm analytical.
So numbers. Will the Colts be able to stay within 6 points?
No, I think this is a big win for New England, but I'm going to take the Colts because I don't bet against my team.
All right,
So
Joe.
I'm throwing this one away. Is what I'm saying. But if advice on behalf of betting.net, take the New England, give up the 6 points.
All right, Joe.
And you're going to be fine.
No, I think that is excellent advice, Steve, because one thing you overlooked is the front office in Indianapolis has already signaled to everybody that they're tanking the season. So,
Yeah. That's what
New
they're
England-
doing now.
I will say this again. It's the best thing you can do. You might as
They're
well
going
try to get a quarterback.
Trying to get
Yeah,
a good quarterback in here, and that's
I agree, but yeah, I think New England.
I mean, it
is
sucks as a fan when you watch it, but me and Joe had to watch it, and then 2 years later, you're watching your team in the Super Bowl. So it's worth it.
what pisses me off is I spent $250 on NFL Direct Ticket. Now I got to watch them tank the rest of the season just so I could watch Colts games.
But it's worth it if you get Bryce Young.
Yeah, it's worth it next year.
It's worth it.
But next year you don't have to pay
you ain't winning nothing.
$250.
I mean, you got Slinging Sammy, whatever the hell his name is. The kid is terrible. And the thing that I find funny is all the Colts fans, all the Colts fans think that the dude that threw for 188 yards looked really good.
I don't
Matt
understand.
Ryan for 303 touchdowns to lose 31-28, and everybody will bitch about why they got him in the game.
I mean
you're not wrong.
Steve, I have one issue here. Colts fans generally are the dumbest fans in the NFL.
They keep going to games when Irsay.
No, I mean it's just the lack of knowledge. I mean, if the ball was round, everybody would be good. But
but I'll tell you what, Mike, I did this for about 13, 14 years when I had season tickets. They got some of the damn best tailgating going on like you've ever seen.
Brad?
In Indianapolis.
Sure they do. It's better than Dallas where they got barbecue.
Dan, can you pull up the box score for the Colts game last week?
Why?
Yeah. Why?
Just real quick. I want to. How many carries did Thomas get?
Well, let's see.
I mean, they're not even using
your lips, Dan.
He's been the most prolific running back in the NFL the last 2 years.
Derrick Henry is the most prolific.
I don't even know this stat. I'm going to take a guess, Dan. I'm going to say 14.
Yeah, if he got 14, I'll be amazed.
14 total touches or 14 carries?
14 carries.
How many carries?
I don't know. My computer's slow. Sorry, guys. I failed you.
He had like 58 yards. I know.
All right. So is everybody's taking the Patriots?
Yeah, everybody but Steve.
Yeah. Except Steve, yeah.
And that's a homer pick. I'm telling everybody on the radio.
So
you're not supposed to be a homer pick because it's not going to affect how the game ends up.
So Taylor had 16 carries and 16 carries, yeah.
That's still when you've got the premier running back in the NFL right now, you're only giving him 16 carries.
If he was the premier running back in the NFL, you'd only have to give him 16 carries.
I disagree that he's the premier running back in the NFL right now, Steve.
Yeah.
He's the most prolific in terms of yardage in the last 2 years. He is.
That's because Derrick Henry was hurt last year.
If you go back 2 years, you're counting over half of the 2020 season. Derrick Henry would win that.
Okay.
I mean, Derrick Henry wasn't that far behind him, missing half the season. He's not.
You know what I'm talking about.
Nick Chubb. Yeah.
If you want to trade Thomas right now to any team in the NFL, you could get 1 or 2 first-round picks for him.
No way.
Yeah, I bet you could.
No way. There's nobody giving you a first-round pick for a running back. Running back. What did Christian McCaffrey? What did it take to get Christian McCaffrey?
Like a
Wasn't that like
second,
the fifth round?
Yeah.
third, fourth.
Yeah,
No.
McCaffrey's record of injuries, and he's been in the league a long time.
Well, what the hell? I mean, hasn't your guy in Indianapolis been hurt before?
No, he got hurt. He sat out like 1 or 2 games this year. That's the first time he sat out. He's a durable back. And he's young. It's only his 3rd season, isn't it?
I would say Christian McCaffrey. He's the better running back.
Okay, well, I'm not going to get in that argument with you.
You just don't like people.
I said he was the most prolific in terms of yardage in the last 2 years. He's led the NFL in rushing in the last 2 years.
Has he?
Yeah.
That needs to be researched. We would have, let's do this. Dan, pull up 2020 or 2020 and 2021 and see who had more yardage between him and Derrick Henry, who missed 8 or 9 games.
He had 1,800 yards last year.
What did he have the year before?
Like 14 or 15,
Well,
I think.
Henry led the league in 2020 and 2021. Henry had 2,000 in 2020.
Yeah, that's 2,000. And then what did he have in 2021?
I think he had like 1,500 or something like that.
He was hurt. No, he was hurt.
No. Yeah. So in 2019, he had 1,500. 2020, he had 2,000. And then in 2021, Derrick Henry had like 800 yards, 900 yards, something like that.
Yeah. And what was Thomas?
In like 8 games or something like that.
I guarantee it wasn't 4,300 yards in 3 years.
Jonathan Taylor led last year, Steve.
Because I don't even know who Thomas is.
Yo, so Henry had 937.
Number 28. I told you I don't know names. 28.
It's Jonathan Taylor, and he had 8. You're right. He had 1,800 yards last year.
1,200 less than our man had in Tennessee.
Yeah, so Derrick had
the year before.
Derrick had 3,000.
You said the last 2 years, though. So you would have to count the year before.
What did Taylor have the year before?
In 2020, he was 1,169.
And in 2021, he had
1,800. He lost. It's less. It happens.
Yeah, you lose. Yeah. It's all right. Sometimes you lose. Sometimes you win.
I lose all the time, Mike. To you, it's just.
All right.
I'm like Charlie Brown.
Everybody picked the Patriots, right? Nah, you would be more. Yeah. I think that Joe might be Lucy because he looks the most womanly. All right, next up, we're going to go to the Lawrenceburg Raiders.
No,
might be about time.
I took the Colts, but I'm saying bet the Patriots.
Okay.
I'm just not betting against my team.
Okay, next up we get the Las Vegas Raiders, who just get shut out by the New Orleans Saints at the Jacksonville Jaguars. Las Vegas is favored by 1.5. I'll start this one out because to me, this may be my lock of the week. To me, I'm taking the Jaguars. I mean, they're both 2-win teams, but I think what we see is the Jaguars seem like a much better team than they were last year. I mean, they're in most of their games. Trevor Lawrence sucks. Derek Carr has not been good right now. And the issue with Las Vegas is the fact that for some reason they made the same mistake the Denver Broncos did at one time and what the Colts attempted to do at one time, which was to hire Josh McDaniels. I will still say this. The reason nobody is listed as the offensive coordinator in New England is because he'll be the OC before the year is out there. Give me the Jaguars. What do you think, Dan?
You know, I initially wrote down Las Vegas, but the more I think about it and the more I look at it, what's wrong with this team? They've got
McDaniels.
They've got talent on both sides.
They had the right coach last year. He got them to the freaking playoffs. They almost beat the Bengals in the playoffs, and then they fired him because they wanted Josh McDaniels because they were going for a name.
It's ugly. I don't know. You ruin a good thing. You got a top 10 quarterback in Carr, and you're dropping the ball. I'm gonna go Jacksonville too. Screw it. I don't know why Vegas is favored at this point. Jacksonville ain't shit, but Vegas is so damn disappointing.
All right, Joe, what do you think?
Well, I think this is essentially a pick 'em, right? So, and actually, Vegas just changed the line to the Las Vegas at -1, so they just dropped that half point. So I'm going to go with Jaguars all day too. I think they got some, as Brady would say, some malarkey going down in Las Vegas right now. So,
Steven.
I'm gonna go with Colts.
All right, next game. Write it down. You can't change your picks. That's the rule. Who do you got? Raiders or Jaguars?
I'm going with the Jaguars for all the reasons everybody said. This is a crap game that I think I read. One of the thing is it's only on like in 3% of the NFL's viewing area. So
No, that was just 3% of Jacksonville and Las Vegas.
yeah, the only people who are going to see this game.
Hey, how about this?
fortunately,
Last week Dan won, but I do believe I was the one that said the Seahawks would handle what's that team's name? That's Sylvester Stallone calling me again. But I mean, I told y'all the Seahawks were going to beat them, and I think I got a little pushback. The Seahawks are going to Arizona. Arizona's favored by 2.5. What do you think, Joe?
well, I think the Sea Chickens are hot right now. So I think I don't think Arizona's very good. I know Kyler Murray fans would tend to disagree, but I think that's a cult-like following.
That's his mom and dad right now.
Yeah, it's his mom and dad, and I don't know.
Dad's not sure.
Since they dropped
Dad's
that
wanting a DNA test right now.
Right. And since the Cardinals dropped that contract agreement where Kyler Murray had to study 2 hours a night, he hasn't looked real good. So I'm gonna go with the Sea Chickens.
All right, I'm going with the Seahawks also. The Cardinals are the only team that's offense played bad enough to make the Seahawks look like they had a defense in Week 6 when the Seahawks won 19-9. I think Arizona's in desperation mode at 3-5. I think Seattle's just starting to realize they can do something. Geno Smith, I mean, I have a hard time saying that this is a fluke when it continues to happen. I mean, Geno Smith has looked really good for half an NFL season right now. Kenneth Walker III from Michigan State is a stud running back. I mean, they got playmakers on offense. I'm going with Seattle, Steve.
I'm with you.
Hey, Mike, right? I think
it's
Vegas,
amazing. Well, I'm sorry, Dan or Joe. Go ahead.
No, I think the odds makers in Vegas are listening to us because as we're talking on this show, the line just dropped to 2 in favor of Arizona. So
it doesn't matter. It's what it is when the show starts.
All right.
I tell you though, I know Mike, you poo-poo him a lot, but Pete Carroll continues to hang in there.
No, he sucks. Man. I don't care. Dude, I mean, we're in an NFL where like 4 coaches are good. So how do you think Sean McVay won a Super Bowl?
I mean, he's
played
got this
freaking
team,
Opie Taylor.
The Seahawks have gotten better almost game by game all season long. Just slightly a little bit better, more confident. Geno Smith is, we all joked about that at the start of the season, and right now he's in the top 3.
Yeah, it's a fluke in week 1. It's a fluke in week 3 or 4. But by week 7 or 8, you kind of got to start to take it serious, don't you?
Well, that's what I'm saying about Pete Carroll and the whole organization. I think
Pete Carroll got lucky and got Geno Smith.
Well, and they may have gotten smart and got rid of Russell Wilson because he ain't doing crap in Denver.
Russell Wilson wanted out of there for the last 2 years, and he finally got out.
Yeah,
jokes on Russell.
And he's not doing any favors to Denver right now either. So
Denver's not doing any favors for Denver right now either, since they gave up and gave away Bradley Chubb.
Anyway, I think the Seahawks would be probably the surprise team that so far this year in the NFL.
I would say the Eagles just because they're undefeated. Yeah. I expected the Eagles to maybe be a wild card, but it didn't really, and possibly even win the division. But I didn't think we would see them at 7-0 or 8-0 at any point. Dan,
I'm going to take the Seattle Seahawks as well, guys. It looks like Joe's alone on an island again with another one of these games, but this is weird.
No, he took the Seahawks. Joe took the Seahawks.
Oh, that's right. He said the Sea Chickens.
That confuses Dan when you make jokes. Yeah,
it did. I didn't catch it, but no. Anywho, I'm gonna go with Seattle. I'm gonna agree with you guys, and I feel dirty for saying that out loud, but Arizona just sucks. Their defense is awful. Their offense hasn't been quite right. It's been a lot better the last couple of weeks since Hopkins has been back, but they've got a lot of problems, especially on defense. And Seattle's got the 4th highest scoring offense. Hey, show of hands. Who thought the Seattle Seahawks would have a top 4 scoring offense in the NFL this year? Raise your hand. Oh, fucking nobody. Weird. But I'm going to go with Seattle.
Okay.
I think
You're creepy sometimes.
Yeah.
All right. Next up, we've got the Tennessee.
Wait. I'm looking up. I'm not even going to tell you where Mike's hand is right now. Jesus, Mike.
This is like the Brady Bunch. I would be like Mike, and because I'm Mike, and then Joe would be like Carol, and then right under Carol was
I'll
which
be
one
Alice.
was the? You look like Alice. Actually, if your hair was black, it's the same hairdo, Steve. Get in the right century. All right. What are you laughing at, Dan? You didn't even know about a Brady Bunch.
Marsha.
He thought the Brady Bunch was like Tom Brady and Giselle Bundchen and their kids.
Might
All
as well
right.
be.
Next
Do
up,
you know that I ran into her in a Vaughn?
Did she have insurance?
No. She walked by me in the bread aisle. It's like, ooh, Marsha has aged.
Okay, so Giselle Bundchen didn't walk by you. It was Maureen McCormick.
No, she's back in Brazil right now.
No, she's not. She's at her freaking mansion. Well, it could be the mansion in Brazil, or it could have been one of the other 15
No,
mansions.
she's in Miami.
Okay, so what you lie to the audience?
She was in Brazil.
Well, yeah, she was born there. All right, next up, the Tennessee Titans will take on the Kansas City Chiefs. The Kansas City Chiefs are favored by 11, Dan.
Good. I like that because I'm going to take Kansas City. Honestly, I'm surprised this number isn't higher. And it has partially to do with the fact that Kansas City is one of the better teams in the NFL and a legit Super Bowl contender. But it has more to do with the fact that Tennessee is dealing with a lot of different problems. Primarily that they have Derrick Henry on offense, they have a good coach, and then they have a lot of other question marks otherwise. Tannehill's questionable with an ankle injury. He didn't play this past week. Malik Willis did not look good at all.
Because he sucks. I told you that when they drafted him.
They ran Derrick Henry into the ground, and I mean it worked against the Texans. It ain't going to work against the Chiefs. I think Mahomes is going to have a field day with this defense.
Like he did against the Colts. Let's just go ahead and overlook everybody with the Chiefs who have not really been that awesome this year.
The biggest thing is that Malik Willis may be starting. If he's starting, they're going to try to run the ball 40 times again. You're not going to beat the Chiefs that way, and I don't trust Malik Willis to.
Well, you can say that, but you do know the last 3 games they played against each other, the Chiefs are 1-2. And Derrick Henry did win that way.
This is a different Titans team.
All right, Steve.
Are the Colts the only team to beat Kansas City this year?
No, Buffalo beat them too.
Oh, yeah.
They've got 2 losses.
Yeah. That's why I really don't understand the love for Kansas City right now.
Oh, Kansas City.
I'll tell you what.
They got to get love.
Kansas City gets love because this league right now is an absolute shambles.
Not their fault.
Yeah, it is because they suck too. This team is nowhere near the team they had 3 years ago. But everybody acts like it is because the competition sucks.
Again, that's not their fault.
Right now, the best team in the NFL is Buffalo. And it's not even close.
I agree.
So, let's stop acting like Kansas City's doing anything great. Everybody else sucks. It's like the Atlanta Falcons are not very good, but everybody else sucks. So when I look at this point spread, Steve, 11 is a lot, and we made fun of Derrick Henry, but we have seen the Chiefs over the last 4 or 5 years lose games, especially to teams like the Titans that have a strong running game, because the thing about it is if they can run 40 times and average 4 yards a carry, it's going to be really hard for Patrick Mahomes to put up a bunch of points. Right, Steve? We're wrong.
You're right. I don't like the 11 points at all.
I don't like Malik Willis either, though. So that's my next issue.
I know. I'm gonna go with Dan. I'm gonna take a gamble here and take the Chiefs. They're playing better football than when the Colts beat them. That was a horseshit game for Kansas City. And I think the Titans they're running Derrick Henry into the ground right now, as Dan said. And how long they can sustain that, I don't know. But I'm going to go with the Chiefs.
All right, let's go, Joe. What's your pick?
Well, I think that I think the line is so big based off these two teams because they are playing at Arrowhead,
Which it shouldn't be because the Chiefs
Yeah.
have already lost at Arrowhead. I think
I
that
get it, but it's still a hard place to play.
I mean they've had like 3 or 4 games that were decided by less than 8 points. They've lost at home. We watched them blow a lead in the AFC Championship game last year. I don't see what the big deal is. And if you look at the Chiefs' playoff record, it probably hadn't been that great at home.
What my question would be on this game with the line at minus 11, how many points is Tennessee giving up? What's their average of points given up per game?
It was like 19.7 or something like that.
Yeah, their defense is good.
Okay. Yeah, then I'm gonna take Tennessee with the points. Then I think Kansas City wins the game, but I think minus 11. I think 11 points is a lot in the NFL with two teams that are both 5-2.
I agree. And the reason Tennessee is 5-2 is not just Derrick Henry. I mean, Mike Vrabel's a really good football coach. So
and Mike, they played the Colts twice.
Well, yeah, that helps. But then again, the Chiefs played them once and they're 0-1. So, I mean, Malik Willis last week, I think it was 6 for 10 for 55 yards, 0 touchdowns and an interception.
So bad.
Yeah, but they ran for 314 yards. And I think Kansas City is a team that can be run on. Am I wrong here, Dan? Am I missing something?
No, you are wrong. I mean, the Kansas City.
Am I?
Historically, maybe the last couple of years, the Chiefs could be run on, but they have the third best rush defense right now.
But they really don't have the third best rush defense.
No, but they really do because that's what they are.
Oh, geez. Oh, man. Are we going to look at stats again and try to judge things off stats?
They've allowed the third fewest rushing yards through 9 games. You can't argue against fact.
I can argue this. I can argue the fact that when you look at the Chiefs' schedule, how many teams did they play that were like top 10 running teams? Because I'm betting, from what I remember, the Bills aren't. I mean, the Bucs, they gave up 31 points, and the Bucs aren't very good, and they don't run the ball very well. Against the Colts, come on. They played the Chargers. The Chargers don't really run the ball that well. The Cardinals don't run the ball that well. The Raiders, Josh Jacobs has been pretty good this year, right?
Yeah.
Right? Okay, so this is what I'm going to give you, smart ass who loves stats. Josh Jacobs carried the ball 21 times for 154 yards, 7.3 yards per carry. The Las Vegas Raiders, who have won, one game this year, lost by 1 point because their coach went for 2 and they did not get it. The fact that people tell me that the Chiefs are this good drives me nuts because when I look at it, they played the Bills, they got beat at home. They played the Raiders at home. The Raiders are not very good. They wouldn't by a point. They beat the Buccaneers by 10. I mean, hell, the Falcons beat the Buccaneers, right? And we've already ripped them. They lose to the freaking Colts. I mean, they beat the Chargers by 3, and they blow out the Cardinals, which who doesn't do that? So I'm going to tell you this. The only team that they played that had dominant running game, ran right through them. I don't count Jonathan Taylor because that's not the same Colts team. So I'm going to tell you this. I mean, if you want to make a bet on this, I will bet you the Titans run for at least 200 yards. I'm not saying they're going to win the game, but I'm going to take the Titans and I'm going to take the 11 points, and they will run for at least 200 yards because they're not going to throw. They'd be crazy to throw because you can run on the Chiefs. Will you tell me what the Chiefs did to improve their run defense?
I guess, according to you, just play bad teams.
Well, all I know is this. Josh Jacobs was the best running back they played against. And he ran for 7 yards a carry and damn near beat him by himself pretty much. Correct?
Yes.
I mean, this is the thing. This is like me saying a couple years ago, well, Coastal Carolina should be in the NCAA playoffs in the Final Four because they're undefeated. They've got the number 1 defense. Because they're playing teams in like the whatever conference that is, the Big South or some bullshit. I mean, just don't give me that. We can sit there and say that. And last year, there was a point during the season where you said Kansas City's defense is why they're going to go win the Super Bowl again. And then once you get to nut crunching time, they can't stop the run, they can't stop the pass, and they lose. And the whole simple thing is this: the reason they can't stop the run is Andy Reid is a soft ass coach. And that's why he's had he's played in like 757 AFC or NFC championship games, and he's won one Super Bowl. And I mean, he's soft. You can tell he looks like the Pillsbury Doughboy with a mustache. But
Hey,
I'm just telling you this: it would not surprise me if Ryan Tannehill was playing. I would bet the Titans to win the game. But I think Malik Willis sucks, which makes this a 50-50 wager to me, but I'm going to take the 11 points. Steve?
Yeah,
He took Kansas City.
I'm taking Kansas City.
Okay.
But the question I have for you, Mike, is let's say Derrick Henry runs for 200 yards. Does that not balance out or still be below Mahomes throwing for 350 yards?
No, because the chances of Mahomes throwing for 350 if Derrick Henry's running for 200 are much smaller. Because if you're running for 200, unless they're just like 3 long touchdown runs, and you get in a shootout like that, you eat up the clock. And
Right.
we've seen, I remember the Colts with Jacoby Brissett went to Kansas City and beat them the year they won the Super Bowl because they went in and Jonathan Taylor ran the ball down their throats. They could not stop it between the tackles. My guess is this, and I know, Dan, I wasn't trying to be disrespectful. I know their numbers say they're number one, but I don't really care about stats. Sometimes you got to look past the stats and see who you played. And, you know, in the AFC West, the only team really with a running back, because the Broncos, all of them are hurt. You know, the only team with a running back is Josh Jacobs, and he gashed their ass big time. So I'm just saying, show me. And I want to see more than just shutting down, you know, teams that don't have a running game. All right, next up, we've got the Baltimore Ravens at the New Orleans Saints. Baltimore is favored by 3, Joe.
yeah, I'm going to go with Baltimore in this game. I think they win by more than 3. I don't know. Andy Dalton, he's either up or he's down, so we'll see. But I think Baltimore takes this one away. As much as I hate to say it, because I'd like to see Baltimore get a loss this week.
All right, Dan.
I'm going to take Baltimore as well, but for me, it was a little more closer in my mind if the good Andy Dalton shows up. If the good Andy Dalton shows up and doesn't throw 3 picks, New Orleans can steal one, especially if Alvin Kamara is going to be going out there and dominating like he did this past week. So New Orleans is sneaky in this game, and Baltimore likes to lose games like this, and I don't think it should be overlooked. The loss of Rashard Bateman is huge. The fact that Calais Campbell is questionable and probably isn't going to play is huge. And we got to look out for Mark Andrews because I think he left with a shoulder injury, I think it was, and he didn't come back. And yes, they have, what's his name? Isaiah Likely, the rookie, out of, I think, was he at Coastal
Carolina? Yeah, he's a stud. I like him.
Yo, he went in last week. He really stepped up for Mark Andrews. So I don't know if they anytime you lose an all-pro like Andrews, that's going to hurt. But Likely is a solid replacement if he can do what he did last week. But Baltimore's dealing with some injuries. They are also a team that added at the trade deadline. They traded with the Chicago Bears, a big move. They got Roquan Smith from Chicago for a 2023 second rounder.
Is that a huge move when you need skill position players and you go get another defender?
Oh, it's typical Ravens. It's 100% typical.
And it's a rental job for a half a year.
Yes, it is. But the good thing is, for Baltimore at least, it's not really a risk because they're giving up a second-round pick that they're going to get back anyway. So I think they'll be fine on that front. And Roquan Smith leads the NFL in tackles. They had a gaping hole in the middle of their defense because their 2 young linebackers aren't doing anything. And this is a huge get, but I don't want to overlook their injuries. I'm going to take Baltimore very tentatively.
All right, Steve.
I'm going to take Baltimore. Some things I pulled up here. Lamar Jackson, 13-1 against NFC teams. First, he never loses to an NFC team. Dalton is 6-19 in primetime games.
Yeah, but a lot of those were Marvin
Yeah,
Lewis.
those were all with Marvin Lewis.
Okay, but 0-6 in his last 6 primetime games. I doubt that any of those were under Marvin or even for the Bengals. So, not a PT player, as Dick Vitale would say. So, but Lamar 13-1 against NFC teams, pretty good number to have. So,
because they don't play the NFC in the playoffs.
Right, but they still play him. He still has 14 games against NFC teams.
Yeah, but not.
I'm going to take the Ravens and give up the 3 points.
All right, Joe, have you picked this one yet?
Yeah, he
took the Ravens.
Okay, this is a no-brainer to me. I'm taking the Saints. I think Alvin Kamara could run the ball. I don't think the Ravens stop it that well, and I think Andy Dalton, you could say up and down. The only reason you say that, you look at his last 4 or 5 games, he had the one bad end of the half. In that game, he did put up 32 points. He did throw 4 touchdown passes on top of it. I think overall, he's played well. He's a better option than Jameis.
2 of them to the other team.
I already said that. Why would you reiterate what I just said? That is rude. What an asshole. All right. Dumbass. You're a dumbass, Risley.
There it is.
It took over an hour. Damn.
It took an hour to
But
get
no,
one out.
I think it's Monday night. It's in New Orleans. The Saints have a shot to make the playoffs. They have to win this game. I like Andy Dalton.
Yeah, I know you do.
Everybody
I love
else
Andy
should
Dalton.
like Andy. I don't love him. I like him. I love Joe Burrow. I hate,
I wish he was quarterback in the Colts.
You probably do, because you'd be much better off, because Andy Dalton gets a really bad rap. It's not like he's been on a team that was good enough to win anything except for 2015 when he was 10-2. He'd thrown 29 touchdowns, 7 interceptions. He messes up his finger. He misses the last 4 games. A.J. McCarron screws up everything. Jeremy Hill fumbles the ball. Everybody loses their shit because of an undisciplined team. But I'm going to go with the Saints here. And I want to remind everybody, the NASCAR show will be tomorrow
The NASCAR show
at 10 o'clock. You can watch Joe and Steve talk about the wheels on the cars going round and round. Check them out. You can also follow us on the Grilling Truth at Grilling Truth. And remember, betting.net finds the best promotions, offering bonus codes so you don't have to. Head over to their website now and take advantage of things like free bets and matching deposits. It's after 10, so I was feeling sexy.
I was just going to say.
that was nice. That was nice.
Yeah, Joe's rocking back and forth in his chair.
Good God, we got to go.
That's because Joe's getting older too, and he's got to pee every hour, and we're a little over an hour. All right, guys, make sure you check out Tipico Sportsbook, which is our top recommended sportsbook for betting the games this weekend. Steve, any final words?
No, good show, guys.
Wait, no. What about the Rams and the Bucks?
Did we miss a game?
We missed that.
That would be Joe's fault, because Joe
I put the Rams and the Bucks in there. I know I did. It's like the second game from the bottom. You just skipped over it.
The bottom is the Vikings and Commanders.
It's in there.
Not here. It is not here.
Okay, well, it's my fault then. So the Rams play at the Bucks. The Bucks are favored by 3. -3.
The Bucks are favored by 3. The Rams are at the Bucks. This game's a mess now, isn't it?
Yep.
All right. So since it's a mess, Joe, since you screwed it up, what do you think?
This is a pick'em game for me right now with both of these teams. I think they both have big problems right now. So I'm gonna go with I'm just gonna go with my gut on it. Take the Bucks. No real explanation as to why.
I'm going to take the Bucks also. Cooper Kupp is dealing with an ankle injury. That won't help Matt Stafford. I think Tom Brady finally breaks out a little bit. I just don't know if the team around him is good enough to break out with him, because I don't think he's necessarily played terrible. I just don't think he's got a whole lot of weapons. The offensive line, he's missing guys from last year that ended up on other teams. He's had guys get hurt. So, Steve, Bucks or Rams?
Kupp, I live out here in L.A., obviously. Kupp hasn't missed a minute of practice this week at all so far.
I'm not saying he won't play. If he's dealing with an ankle injury and he's playing at 80% instead of 100%, can't make a difference.
80% of Cooper Kupp is still better than most of the receivers in the NFL.
Not
So,
wrong.
but
You picked the Rams then.
Go with the Rams,
no,
Steve.
I'm not. No, I'm taking the Bucks.
That
I
made a lot of
think
sense.
Brady's got his personal shit behind him now, and I think he's going to dial it in, refocus. And I know the Bucks are not the Bucks of 2 years ago, but I still think Brady, can still lead this team to victories. Sounds like he's going to be playing next year too, right now. So
All right.
we're not done seeing him. He's not going to quit in the near future.
All right.
So,
Dan, do you agree with the consensus?
I'm going to say
here?
Tampa Bay. Yes, I'm going to say Tampa Bay. Poor Joe looks like he's going to pass out.
No,
But before
I'm fine. I was scratching my head to Steve.
Before we finish, two things. Hold on. Before we finish, two things. One, the 12 trades at the deadline is the most ever, which is exciting because I remember, 10, 15 years ago, the trade deadline was non-existent. So 12 trades most ever. That's awesome. And I did calculate our numbers. So I got 65. Mike, you're at 56. Steve, you're at 56.
Jeez. Joe's got nothing now. Joe's way behind.
Joe's got some catching up to do, but he's got
Joe, you will be allowed back next week if you beat us.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that's a given.
You're not going to win.
Steve, you remind me of the insurance commercial where all the people go and hide behind the chainsaws. You gave us every single reason as to why.
Yeah, take the Rams.
LA was the Rams, and you're like, nah, I'm going with Tampa though.
The old switcheroo on you.
All right, guys.
Hey, Joe. Tomorrow night, you can use the phrase, Mike, what am I?
A dumbass. So is Dan, by the way. So
Joe,
Steve,
you can use that phrase with me tomorrow.
Oh, you're not a dumbass.
I would
If you're
never
a
do that
dumbass,
to
you wouldn't be on the show. But all right, just don't embarrass yourself like the last guy that picked against us, Joe. But all right, guys, we're gonna go ahead. We're gonna wrap the show up.
Are we having Joe back next week?
I don't know. We'll have to see. We'll see what the ratings are.
I'm a busy man.
Joe,
Steve.
I want Joe back.
Well, I got to tell you this. Me and Dan have already texted each other. If Joe's back, we're not doing the show anymore.
Yeah,
that's it. There's only room for one guy with nice facial hair on this show.
Right. Well, mine's getting shaved off tomorrow because I told my football team that if they won the championship this year, I'd let them shave my beard off.
Oh, you're not.
You won a chip. Congrats.
Yeah, I mean, it was kindergarten.
You guys can't even see it. I got about 4 days worth of growth right now. You can't even see it.
Yeah, well, I may come back and look like Grizzly Adams next week because I got like 2 20-hour bus trips coming up. So I may just not shave all the way through the whole thing. I'll look like Tom Hanks in Castaway.
Wilson!
Yeah. But all right, guys, we're going to wrap the show up for now. Make sure you check us out on YouTube. Make sure you like, subscribe, whatever you do on YouTube. Do it for us. Do it for the pineapple and Dan. Is that a pineapple, Dan?
You're damn right it's a pineapple.
Pineapple Dan will be his name from now on.
Woo,
you need to turn it upside down.
You're my boy, Blue.
All right, guys, we're going to wrap it up. Follow us on Twitter at Grueling Truth. But for now, for Joe Spillman, who won the Super Bowl this last Sunday, shout out to, what do you call your team? The VV Pacers or something?
They're the Switzerland County Pacers powerhouse team.
So why? I mean, it's kind of stupid to call a football team Pacers, but all right. I digress.
Hey, Mike,
it's Indiana. It's Indiana, Mike.
Joe's got to go pee. Can he go?
I don't have to
next
pee.
Year,
Who came up
I
with
think
that?
next year, Joe should move up to the high school, and me and Joe's team should play each other.
I'm done playing your teams, Mike.
What? My team went, and they went just to have fun and not get anybody hurt, and that's the way.
Yeah, well, they beat the shit out of us, so let's stop talking about it.
No, they did. I watched the film. It could have been much worse, Joe. Quit being so overdramatic. Damn.
Whatever.
All right, guys, we're going to wrap it up. But for Joe Spillman, Dan Kornhauser, Steve Risley, I'm Mike Goodpaster. You've been watching and listening to The Grueling Truth.